This was a low-budget movie. Beautifully, beautifully written.
Who would have thought a low-budget film about a boxer would go on to become a pop culture icon? Behind that legendary movie are some wild, little-known facts. So let's dive into 10 surprising things about how the 1976 classic was made. Before Rocky took over the world, Sylvester Stallone was struggling to make ends meet. He was living in a crappy apartment and even had to sell his dog Butkus just to pay rent. Then he watched one of the most unlikely fights in boxing history, Muhammad Ali versus Chuck Wepner. Wepner, a huge underdog, was getting destroyed by Ali, but he didn't back down. He managed to land a few punches and at one point even knocked Ali down.
And threw that big right hand right under the heart.
His left. Oh, a vicious shot to the rib of Muhammad Ali, and what a surprise! Chuck Wepner gets to the body of Muhammad Ali. Now let's see what happens here. We're going to count it to 6.
That moment gave Stallone the inspiration to write the script for Rocky, a movie about a nobody getting a shot at greatness. He saw in Wepner's story the perfect backdrop for an underdog tale, and he knew this was his big break. If that underdog brawl lit a fire in you, just wait, because the way Stallone battled to bring Rocky to life, that's a whole fight of its own.
Eloquent street prose I ever read. It was 98 pages of a gift.
Stallone knocked out the first draft in just 3.5 days. Talk about putting in work under pressure. But only about 10% of that original draft made it through after 9 major rewrites. And those early drafts, things were a little different. We're talking a Jewish Adrian, a racist Mickey, and even a bizarre ending where Rocky throws the fight to open a pet store. Just imagine that, Rocky the pet store owner instead of the champion. Definitely a far cry from what we know and love now, but all those changes were part of the process to make the iconic film that we got. Now, if you thought Stallone was cashing in big time right from the start, here's the reality check. He didn't make that much up front. He got paid $20,000 for the script and $350 a day for acting. All in all, that's less than $30K for a movie that would eventually change his life. Not exactly Hollywood millionaire status, right? But here's the thing, Stallone wasn't stupid. He negotiated a 10% share of the film's gross earnings. And when Rocky hit big, he made $22 million. Talk about the kind of bet that pays off big time. I guess sometimes you've got to gamble on yourself to win big. The script's early drafts were wild, but the casting was where intense drama unfolded. Adrian's role almost went to Carrie Snodgrass, but she was way too expensive. Then Susan Sarandon auditioned, but get this, she was considered too sexy for the part. Can you imagine that? Too sexy for Rocky? Finally, Talia Shire stepped in at the last minute and she nailed it.
What's so bad? Tell me what?
But here's the real kicker. Her entire look came together with thrift store finds and her own clothes.
Do you have a phone?
Who'd you want to call?
I want to let my brother know where I am.
Why?
I think he might be worried.
Well, I'll call your brother.
Yeah, no Hollywood budget here, just some serious do-it-yourself style to bring Adrian to life. Talk about making it work on a shoestring budget. The casting was already dirt cheap, but shooting the movie was even more broke. With a tiny budget to play with, Rocky was basically a guerrilla filmmaking operation. No trailers, barely any catering, and the cast and crew survived on pizza and cheeseburgers. Yeah, they weren't living the high life by any means, and when it came to filming, they didn't always bother with permits, like when they shot Rocky's famous run along the docks. Yeah, they just went for it. Talk about doing whatever it takes to get the shot. Filmmaking already felt like a roller coaster, but Burt Young becoming Paulie, that's the part where the wheels came off and somehow still landed perfectly. This dude didn't just act like Paulie, he lived it. Young went full method, and I mean full method. He actually used Vermouth on his neck, layered his clothes for that grungy look, and even dipped his hands in turpentine to really get into Paulie's rough alcoholic vibe. Now, I don't know about you, but that's some next level commitment to a character. If you were wondering how far actors go to make a role believable, Burt Young just set the bar.
How are you? Get my unusual up there.
Excuse me. Deliveries are in the back.
I'm not a delivery guy.
Well, do you have a reservation?
Do I look like a freaking Indian?
Alright, think that was wild? Let's glide into the ice rink scene, where love, awkward silences, and budget cuts all share the ice. Originally, the date was supposed to happen in a fancy restaurant surrounded by 300 extras. Yeah, big budget vibes, right? But then the budget took a massive nosedive and they had to rewrite it. The new plan? Just Rocky and Adrian on the ice, all alone.
See, I tell you what the trouble is. You see, I'm a southpaw.
What's a southpaw?
Southpaw means you're left-handed, and southpaw throws your timing off.
And honestly, that's what made the scene so unforgettable. The awkwardness, the intimacy, it all came together perfectly. Sometimes the best moments come from having to work with what you've got. If you've enjoyed these facts, do hit that subscribe button, because what's coming up next is even more wild. The ice might have been cold, but these next scenes, they're about to melt your brain with just how absurdly brilliant they are. A lot of scenes were inspired by none other than real-life boxer Joe Frazier. Those epic moments like Rocky running up the museum steps and punching slabs of meat, totally Frazier's influence. The dude's training methods were legendary, and Stallone paid tribute by putting him in the movie. Frazier even appears in the film, though you would never guess it because he wasn't credited for inspiring those iconic moments. Talk about flying under the radar, right? Now, if you thought that inspiration played a major role in the making, wait until you see how creativity comes into play.
Jurgens, the poster's wrong.
What do you mean?
I'm wearing white pants with a red stripe.
It doesn't really matter, does it? Sure you're gonna give us a great show.
Before the fight, the giant poster above the ring showed Rocky wearing red shorts with a white stripe, but in reality, he wore white shorts with a red stripe. The props team messed it all up and there was no money to fix it, so Stallone got clever and added a line where Rocky points out the mistake himself. Now the same thing happened with his entrance robe. It was way too big, looked like he borrowed it from a heavyweight. Now, you would think that the creativity peaked here, right? But wait. What about an ending which was not the actual ending they had planned? Originally, Rocky and Adrian were supposed to just walk away quietly after the fight. No big emotional moments, but after showing it to a test audience, it was clear that people weren't feeling the bleak vibe.
Adrian! Adrian!
So they went back and filmed a new ending, one that was way more emotional, and just to make it feel real, they used friends and crew as extras. Talk about making it work when you need it the most. And there you have it, the wild behind-the-scenes chaos that somehow gave us one of the greatest underdog movies ever made. If you enjoyed this little trip down film history's weird alley, don't just sit there like a stunned extra. Hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so hard it feels like a championship win.